Welcome to another episode of A Dope Girl's Guide, where we stay dedicated, original, particular, and excellent in all that we do. This is your girl, Natasha G. Here at A Dope Girl's Guide, we discuss tips, tools, and have candid discussion on life, purpose, and how to do it with excellence. Enjoy another episode of A Dope Girl's Guide. Hey y'all, this is your girl back at it again, Natasha G from A Dope Girl's Guide. Stay tuned. We are continuing our marathon series, how to keep going, how to continue to run the race. The significance of the marathon is understanding that you continue to go, and it's for a long distance, right? And so I want y'all to stay tuned. This episode this week is about self-care and support. So y'all stay tuned. We're gonna go dive deep. And I want y'all to stay tuned for next week's episode. I have a guest coming on. It's going to be amazing. Don't be telling y'all yet. I'm gonna wait. But stay tuned. In the meantime, y'all gotta check out my other episodes, because the thing is, the way I talk is I speak in layers. And until you kind of graduated, sometimes you may not be able to grasp concepts. I try to be as understanding and as plain as simple. But if you check out my other podcast, it's like a building on top of, right? So stay tuned for this week's episode on self-care and support. So this week is about self-care and support, and I will not delay. I'll just get right into it. So last week we spoke about, continuing to keep the fire burning, and how to do that is to keep a vision, keeping a clear vision, and going back to your reasons why, and understanding that when you do that, when you go back to your foundation, it is what lights you. It was what keeps you continuing to go. I think that when you can go back to a vision and when you can go back to your reasons why, I think if you have to mentally go back to that and think why, I think you might be at a very, just a burnout stage, a place where you're just really questioning, a place where you may not see the fruits that you want to see. You may not see the things that you want to see in your business, in your relationships, in different things that you're doing, in your workout plan, and you staying fit, and you, whatever it is that you're doing. I think if you have to question your why and go back to your vision, which is not a bad thing, it means that you're not seeing something that you want to see. And so you got to go back and really just realign your mind. And so it started to make me think about what solidifies us in that place in continuing to go. Because it's continual, right? A marathon is just not a race itself, but it's something that is continuing to go. And we spoke about this idea of consistency in our past podcasts, but just going a bit deeper is understanding that there's certain things that you need along the road, along the journey, that is going to keep you. And self-care and support, they go hand in hand. I really was just going to talk about self-care, but I realized support is a major part of self-care. And I really want to break this down in letting us understand really what that looks like, and first of all, what it looks like to me. And then if you correlate with it, then take the pieces that fit for you. But self-care is the idea that you are going to self-reflect. You're going to look at things that help to build you. A lot of times people look at self-care from a place of external. I feel like there's a trending topic, which is like, you have your self-care Sundays, you have your self-care Tuesdays, and people do the facial mask and they do all these things, and then after you take the mask off, you're just left kind of with yourself, and you're like, well, why am I doing all of this? And we know that sometimes when you are doing self-care, it makes you temporarily feel good, which is what we need sometimes. Sometimes we just need to just feel good, even though our circumstances aren't the best. We want to feel good, and it helps to motivate us for that moment and that time. It helps us to keep that candle lit. But I want to talk about how we continually live a life of self-care. Live a life that is just sustained and has a foundation from that mindset of self-care and what it actually looks like. So I spoke about this idea that it's really just we really think, okay, well, if I just do the face mask, like, you go to Shoppers Drug Mart, you get a $2, $3 face mask. I love it. I do my little Epsom salt bath. Sometimes I light my little candle, read my novel, turn my lights down, and I'm good and I feel great. And then I get on the road to getting things done and I'm like, wait, what's going on here? And I realize that I need to think about really what this is. And self-care is the idea that for me, self-care is anything that helps me to stay balanced. And balance means that there's no chaos and things are in order for me. Right? And so what that self-care looks like from an internal perspective, because we spoke about the external. The external is all the things that look good. You get those creams, those lotions, those things that make you feel good, that make your body feel good. Eating healthy, taking a jog, going out in nature, which nature borderline gives you, so even though you're doing external things, it does make you feel internally good, but sometimes it may not have that sustainability. And so I'm wanting to talk about the internal parts of self-care, the internal factors of self-care, which to me is having a positive mindset, having a mindset that is mindful of your self-talk. A lot of people can dress well, but they have an ugly personality. I met many beautiful, handsome people in my life. Their attitude sucks, and how they feel about themselves is so low that you're like, wow. And so as I've gotten older, I realize the greatest voice in your life is your own. So if we can reach to the place where our self-talk, the way we speak about ourselves, which is a thought process that no one else sees, that only you see, how can we reach to that place where our self-talk is, we're reflecting on it. We're being mindful of it. We're being strategic of it. We're being aggressive with what that looks like, and really creating a lifestyle in our lives that supports that. And so we're going to go into support now, right? And what that kind of looks like. But I want to speak a bit further on how we can begin to create a routine and create tools and resources on how you can go about living a life that has positive self-talk. So one of the things that I do is I write on my mirror little self-declarations that mean the most to me. So before, I just used to write, I am beautiful, I am solid, I am this, I am that. I would have words that I wanted. And then I started evolving from the place of speaking. I started to evolve, and speak from the place of what I needed in that moment, and understanding that that thing was in me. And until I began to speak that about myself, that I wouldn't then see that. Because what happens in your mind is, it's like Velcro, right? Velcro is two pieces, they both attach to one another. One sticks onto the other. Your words to yourself are like Velcro. Sometimes when you first hear that self-talk, it feels weird. Like, I remember when I first used to do the mirror and the self-talk, I'm like, I'm beautiful? What? I used to look in the mirror and be like, this feels weird. But now it's so much a part of me that when I do it, I feel awakened and I feel refreshed. And it's part of my self-care. And I realize that when I begin to do that, that I am now balanced, because it's so much a part of my ritual. It's so much a part of my, it's so much a part of the healthy regiments that I do, that when I begin to go back to doing it, I realize, okay, I'm coming back to myself now. I'm coming back to myself now. you know? And this is what we want to try to do. We want to try to live a lifestyle where these things are becoming a norm, that when we don't do them, we feel like we are off. And it leads me into really talking about support. And support is people or resources that help you go into the direction that you need to be. And when I think about support, I think about a shelf. I think this thing is lifting you up. This thing is holding you up to get to the next level or to stay where you are. And this is what you need when you're wanting to continue to run a race, continue to do the things that you love. You need something that's going to keep you grounded, that's going to keep you seeing what you need to be seeing. You don't need anything that's going to turn you off. Right? So when I think about a shelf and I think, wow, the nails in that shelf are wiggly, you begin to see, especially those new floating shelves, the stability in it begins to weaken after a while. If it's not screwed in properly, then the shelf begins to weaken and begins to go down. So now you can't see things from the way you need to see them, right? Because the support is not there. And so why support is necessary is because it reflects your self-care. It reflects your self-talk. Because guess what? If you got friends in your life that aren't speaking the same thing you're speaking, I tell you what, you can't attain the things that you need to attain. Because believe it or not, everyone around you should be able to reflect your self-talk. And that's another good point. That's a key indicator that if people around you are negative, usually, and you are able to identify, usually your self-talk is exactly like how they're speaking. So you're reflecting that within yourself. So you always got to ask yourself, what does my support look like? A lot of people, I think sometimes we can run the race, but we can sometimes be a bit confused with what that looks like and have a dependency or expectation on people to say, you have to play this particular role in my life. And when they don't, you get discouraged. And so a lot of people may look and be like, well, I don't really have supports because this thing I want to do, people aren't really there to verbally support me. My mom or my family or people around me don't support what I'm doing. And so that's why I said not only support people, but support is also resources. So one of the things that really helped me to manage and cultivate a life of self-care with no one else watching, not putting it on social media, no one knows, is really being able to dive into books that transform my mindset and people on YouTube, different things that I watch that made sure that I continually had a mindset that was healthy, a mindset that encouraged me, that supported what I was doing, supported me internally. In turn, the things I was doing externally, they were matching up, right? And so I know which things I need to go to make sure that I am pretty much balanced. And I think this really is the key, right? This is the key to continuing the race and really cultivating a life of self-care and support, is really saying that, you know what, I have this foundation that I can go back to. And I think I want to really just kind of highlight this part, which is, I think that sometimes when we're doing things, we think they have to be perfect all the time. And you know what, it's been a while that I've done this thing, or, right now my life's not looking like I have a lot of people that support me, or it's not looking the way you want it to look. I think the reason why I'm talking about this is to say, as long as you have a foundation in place that you can go back to. And I've learned this concerning finances, concerning wanting to live a solid spiritual life, concerning relationships, concerning having a healthy mindset, concerning family, is making sure that you're building a sure foundation so that you can go back to it. So in the midst of you feeling lost, in the midst of you feeling you're like, I know, I got something I can go back to. I got these tools in my roster that I can hold on to, right? And so as I say, I use this idea of when I used to go to track and what things I did and how I can use those analogies to bring it all the way full circle is, you know what? Before you run a race, before we even went to go do an event, to go to AFSA, if you're into track, you're from Ontario, and we did the track meets, and we would go and do an event. We always had practice prior to. We had practice for weeks and months prior to our form. We worked on our form. We worked on what we were eating. We worked on we began to have a winning mindset, that we were like, yes, we're crossing the finish line. We're getting ready. Your people were on the side cheering for you. This is what I'm talking about. There was a foundation that I knew I can go back to, so that when I was done the race, when I got feedback from others, my coach would say, your form was off. Or in the midst of the race, catch this, crazy, just got it. In the midst of the race, I can say, wait, let me pace myself, because I was taught, pace yourself, pace your breathing. Your form is off. Stay in your lane. Focus on you. Look forward. There were things that you learned along the way to keep you solidified, to keep you going. And to me, that was self-care and support, right? And so I just want to encourage everybody. I want to say to you, if you have no tools or resources that you have to maintain your self-care, reach out, send me a message. What I'm going to do in the next session of Bold Moves is actually list some resources that I've used to just get myself on track and create a solid foundation for myself. Some books, some people, just things that help me continue to run, continue to do the things that I believe I'm called to do, to, in terms of my purpose. And yeah, I just really hope that this episode was helpful for you. Message me. Let me know if it was great. I'm going to encourage you all to go onto my YouTube page. We have a YouTube now. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts, all your audio streaming sites. Like and share and listen, and y'all get in tune. And most importantly, y'all stay dedicated, original, particular, and excellent in everything that you do. And I'm going to see y'all next week. Stay tuned. Later. Hey y'all, this is the Bold Move segment. As promised previously, I did mention that I was going to add some resources and then some things that I do to ensure that I have a roster of support, which is roster support and self-care tools on hand. So one of the things that I do is, as I mentioned, I read on my mirror. So I Google different self-declarations that are according to what it is I'm feeling. So it's like self-confidence. You can Google it and then write it down. And then you have different ones every week. Another person I listen to a lot is Cindy Trim. She helps me get my mind to a level of just higher thinking. And there's a lot of hope in what she's in, a lot that she teaches. I also read a book on Audible, Audible is an app that you listen to books through audio while you're cleaning, while you're doing different things. And I listen to Money Mindset by Harv Eker. Another thing that I do is I listen to a girl on YouTube. She's called Sparkle Marie. A lot of her philosophies are like manifestation, but I like that she speaks about positivity. And so, and then another thing I do is I look through my old podcast, I listen to my old podcast as encouragement. So I encourage all of you guys to do that. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of A Dope Girl's Guide. Have yourself a wonderful week.